I'm going to show you how to make 7 more drum and bass sounds. Now, I've previously made a video covering 7 different drum and bass sounds. I'll leave a link to that in the description if you haven't watched it already. And if you want to save yourself some time, all of these presets are available in Chaos Collection, my sample pack, link to that down below as well. It's also got loads more presets, samples, and project files in it as well. The first bass sound is what I like to call an 808 Womp. It sounds like this. And this is really good for using on the first beat of your drops, and then maybe every other bar or every 4 bars or something like that. Just a really good way to start your drops. It's actually very simple to make. It's simply a sine wave, and then we've got the level turned to 0, the round off, and then envelope 1 here with these settings along the bottom, dragged onto the level onto the full amount, and then we've got LFO 1 here, dragged like this, put on envelope, and on quarter, and then we drag this up to here, and you hold shift and alt to move this around like this, and then we've got it on around 16, 17. Then we've also added a filter here, which is just MG low 18, and with all that on, you get something that sounds like this. So you can barely hear anything at the moment. Now let's do the magic. So we've got distortion on diode 1, with the drive on 79, and the mix on 76, and then we get this. Next, we've got the EQ, and we've got this cutting out any levels above the roundabout 2000. And that starts to get rid of any high range, any dodgy clicking noises. And then we add a compressor, turn the gain up a little bit, start to get that. And then finally, we add one more filter, which is MG low 6. And then we drag this LFO on 14, and the cutoff's on 600 there. And then we get this. And there you have your first sound. This is what it sounds like with drums. Now let's add a wobble into that. And this is the second bass. So I'll turn the sub off, and let's have a look at how this wobble is made. So look at that. Now we've got 3 sine waves. 1 on 0, 1 on -2, 1 on -1. And then we've got FM from B on 36%, the rands turned off and the levels turned off. And then what we've got is this LFO1 doing this sort of triangle shape on trigger, so that just means it repeats itself, and then on 1/8 rate. And then we just apply this to the level of the noise, which is on bright white, to the level of basic shapes oscillator A on 53%. We leave this because the FM from A is doing the work for us. And then we've got MG low 24, cut off on 622, and the LFO1 on it all the way around to 40 to 50-ish. And we start to get this sound. Can't really hear it at the moment, but once we add the distortion, which is a sine shaper, you can sense a pattern here. We turn the drive to 18%, and we put LFO1 to 25%. We start to get that crazy sound. And then if we add a little bit of EQ to boost some of the highs, the sound comes through even more, and then you can put a sub underneath and it sounds even fatter. This sound is really gnarly, and you can also adjust things. So for example, I could adjust the level and you get a different sound. And the FM, for example. There's lots of things you can do with this sound. Next, let's look at a Squidgy Wub sound for bass number 3. Now this works really well for dubstep, but I've also used it in drum and bass. Now we're using basic shapes, turn the wavetable position to number 3, and the octave to -2, and then what we can do is we can get the LFO1 on the level like this, and then adjust it to 74, and we get a MG low 6 filter here, cut off all the way to the left, and number 64 on here. Oh yeah, and make sure you click these buttons here. I didn't go through that in the last 2 basses, but just make sure they're applied as well. So we don't actually need B applied in this one, just because it's just using oscillator A. And then we've got the drive up, the fat up, and the res up. And then we've got this LFO shape on an 1/8 again, on trigger, in this shape. And you can just draw these on, like so. And then without the processing, this sounds like this. And then what I've done is added a hard clip distortion on 30%, 100 mix. I've added a just basic compressor with the gain turned up. And then to get that real sound, I've done this massive EQ here, which you can see. And we've also got some reverb on here. So it sounds like this without any reverb. And then with some reverb, which is just Valhalla Room and an EQ. I feel like that adds a little bit more depth to the sound. Can do it on here, but it doesn't sound as good in my opinion. So yeah, if you're making dubstep as well, try it out in dubstep, but it also sounds pretty cool in some drum and bass tunes. And you can use it as like a really fast wub as well. So you can make like a melody like this as well as a wobble. And then of course experiment with all the cutoffs. If you're enjoying this video, please take a second just to give it a like. It really helps boost the algorithm. Thank you. For the fourth bass, we've got a bouncy jump up style bass, and this sounds like this. So how is this one made? So we've got the sub here on a triangle on -2. Then again, we've got basic shapes, -2, unison of 8. We're using the unison tool now, and we're using 0.04, and the blends on 23. Then we've got the wavetable position all the way to 7, the round off, and the level down, because we're using LFO1 here. And on this side, we've got basic shapes, and we've got +1 and +7. We've got the round on this time. You can turn this off as well if you want. If you want the bass to be a bit more consistent. So +1, +7, wavetable position all the way to here. And then again, this LFO is going to be on the level and the level and the level here. And that's it. And then we've got this MG low 12 just on 45. And this is being used on the envelope 3 here. I don't think it's doing that much. You could probably just have the cutoff all the way. And then the res is on 10% and everything else is fine. And then we've got these A and B turned on here. We haven't got the sub turned on, so you could try turning the sub on. Sounds a little bit better. And then we've got this page here, so with the distortion and the compressor turned off, it sounds like this. And then we've got diode 2, 25%. And then we've got the distortion down here, just changing it so I can change it here instead of here. I normally use these mods down here, but if I think that something sounds good and can change, but I don't want to forget what it is. So it just like saves it in your brain kind of thing. And then we've got the compressor on. And gain turn up quite a lot. And that's the sound. I have also got a little bit of reverb on this one as well. So you can hear before, after. So this one is great for fast melodies like this one. This kind of bass you want to be able to like sort of like bob your head along to. Like imagine you're like walking down the street just bobbing your head, doing some ridiculous stupid dance. That's the kind of music I think of when making like bouncy jump up like that. Just having a laugh with your mates. Alright, let's have a look at the fifth bass, which is a lead bass. Now this sounds really like a tune, but I can't remember which tune it is. So if you know, let me know in the comments. So this is what it sounds like. And this bass is a little bit more complicated, but not too much. So we're using a basic sine wave and a basic shapes. And you can see pretty much most of the best sounds just sound good with sine waves and basic shapes. And then it's on -2 and the rand's turned off, but this time we've got the bend on plus. So this makes the sine wave shape change into this, which often adds more grit to the sound. And then we've got basic shapes on the other side on 0 and +7, on wavetable position 6, and the levels just turned down slightly. And then we've got MG low here on 124, and then envelope 1 on 62 there, and the drive turned up to 53. So once you have all that, it should sound something like this. And then with this filter on, which is MG low, cutoff on 84, envelope on 36, it should sound something like this. Now the last two basses is sort of like a Foghorn down pitch crazy bass. And then we've got this kind of like sine harmony where we're using an inharmonic from the massive presets. And this sounds like this, which I think sounds really sick and really groovy for more modern style drum and bass tunes. And I'm definitely going to be using these two sounds in future tracks for sure. So let's have a look at the Foghorn down slap first. So again, it's 2 analog sine waves, both on -2, both with the RAN turned off, and both with the levels on the same. Everything is the same. And then we've got this noise on alpha noise, which is the first one. And then without the effects, it sounds like this. So the way you get the down pitch is LFO1, you put an envelope mode and a bar, and then you create this line just going down. And then if we go to matrix, you find LFO1, then here you find master tune, and then you turn this up to like 1, because all you need is about 1. It then creates this down pitch. So if I was like to do this, you'd hear it go crazy. So 1 is plenty. I think the most I've ever gone up to is like 3 or something. You really don't need that much. And then we add this diode 2 distortion on 88% and 100. And then if we add this multiband just on 100 here and the gain turned up, you start to get this sound. And you can turn the master tune off if you don't want it to go down pitch. So we can just turn this off here. Or maybe you want to create some sort of wub with it instead. So you could do something like this. It's up to you. So let's have a look. Damn, I've just realized this has been called bass 6 for the whole video. Let's have a look at bass number 7. Also, you're going to want to put a sub bass underneath every sound, and you can just do that by cutting the lows out of your main bass with an EQ, and then cutting the highs out of any sub bass you make on your sub bass channel. So let's have a look at the last sound. So with the effects turned off, it sounds like this. Now this is just an analog BD sine wave and a 22 in harmonic, which is from the massive presets. If you don't know how to get them, you can just literally Google massive presets folder 3, and there'll be a video on it somewhere or a download link, and you'll be able to get them for free. And you just drag them into your serum folder. So you go into tables and add them in there. This one is in the basic ones, and it's right here at the bottom, number 22 in harmonic. And you do -2, -2, rand off, and then level off, and this LFO1 on here, and on this one, and then this one is 2 unison, 0.04, 84, rand off again, and then we've got this asylum, but it's not doing anything, so just ignore that. Oh, it did change it a little bit. Hang on. Or am I just seeing things? Maybe I'm just seeing things. So this is on trigger. Doesn't need to be, you can put on envelope if you want. And this is just a really loud sound, and then it tails off after a bar. And then we've got on the effects tab, we've got these 2 plugins. So we've got distortion and we've got EQ. For the distortion, there's a down sample on, and then we've got the drive on 27%, and that's it. Mix on 100. And we start to get that really gritty sound. And then this EQ here just cuts out anything below 222 hertz. A more subby sound. But you can experiment with the EQ. You can add like a custom EQ, like a Pro Q, or just an EQ2, and do more detailed EQing. See what sounds you can come up with. And that is the sound complete. Now another thing I want to point out that I haven't covered in this video is post processing. So this is the kind of post processing you add in these files along here. So of course you're going to have your sidechain, but then you might have a bunch of other stuff which you can see here. So like Camel Crusher, Decapitator, Decimal 2, Pro Q, Saturn 2, Trash 2, maybe reverbs, OTT, things like that. Now some of my sample packs actually have a load of these presets in that you can just drag in and use, and there's also a PDF guide on them as well, so feel free to check them out. It's the bass and DnB folder. But if you want the exact presets, then it's the Chaos collection that you want. And then there's 143 more presets, over 1,000 samples, and 6 different projects to look at as well. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to smash that like button. Let me know in the comments what kind of videos you want to see from me in the future, and I'll see you all in the next one.